I'm Sharon Saylor from SharonSaylor.com. And as always, it's my honor and pleasure to be with you here on another brand new episode. Oh, I've got my tea with me right now. Let me take a quick sip. Great. It's English breakfast tea that actually came all the way with friends from Paris. It's so delicious. Anyway, I had to take a sip of that. What are you curled up with right now to enjoy? I'm so excited. I have my dear friend Bev Martin back. We're going to talk about daring to dream again. And we had a couple of things that we were talking about, just she and I were chatting over tea about this idea of dare to dream again. After a diagnosis, and in my case, and probably a few of my listeners' case, and or some other life change, similar, maybe menopause or something else. So we're going to talk about all of these things that can stray our attention for a little bit and coming back to the possibilities part of life. So let me introduce Bev really quickly. She is a natural and trained intuitive, a certified professional coach with the International Coaching Federation. She's a master practitioner of NLP and a certified facilitator of clean language and symbolic modeling. She's also a certified hypnotherapist and just an amazing, awesome, insightful person who I love to talk to anytime I can get a chance. And so welcome, Bev. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Sharon. Always a pleasure. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, it's so good to see your shiny face again. So if you're not watching us on YouTube over at Understanding Autoimmune on YouTube, pop over there because you'll be able to see our shining faces as well. But thank you for being part of the show on the audio as well. Wonderful community. And the thing that I wanted to talk about, I cannot believe we are past the midway line this year. And I'm like, what happened to the first part? I had a to-do list and I had a dream list and all of this, and very few of those things got checked off. So I said, Bev, let's talk about this idea of really setting those. Is a dream a goal, Bev? I mean, should I say setting a goal to get our dream, or does that sound like too functional?
I would say we get the dream first, and then you break it down into smaller steps, which are those goals.
Okay.
Because a dream can feel a little bit more fluffy and sometimes even hard to attain. And the goal is like those solid little steps that we can take the action steps that we can take in order to reach it. But so a dream is made up of goals.
Oh, okay, good. Because part of me says, yeah, but Bev, at this point, I need a goal to get that dream
Yes, we do.
to make that dream come true.
It's true. We really do. Because I think we forget to dream again. Many of us had dreams when we were in our youth where we're encouraged. People are saying, so what do you want to do or be when you grow up? We're thinking ahead. We're very future focused, of course, in our youth. Then we accomplish many of those things we set out to do. And we become needs be realistic. We've got mortgages to pay and things to do, and we become realistic. But it seems to me that it's possible that we forget, like, oh, hey, you didn't just use up your dream coupon, you get to have some more. And even not so much, I'm not a big fan of the term bucket list, almost like the things I must do before I kick the bucket, although there's something to that, to say, what do I want to have happen? What is really super that I would be willing to dream and then take the steps towards? So I think we might forget to dream, especially when life has had its way. And most of us, if we've reached any certain age in the world, we have encountered challenges, we've encountered diagnoses, we've had certain pitfalls, we've had loss. And so those real life experiences might accidentally have us be like, this is what I've got to face. This is what I have to manage. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Whereas dreaming is in a different way. And we might forget that we need to do that too.
Oh, absolutely forget to. If you're managing your own health and or family members' health and other types of responsibilities, dreaming seems, I'm going to use it, I know it's an oxymoron or whatever that would be, but dreaming seems like a pipe dream sometimes. I find that I sometimes say, when I get to X, I'll take a moment to dream. But X never seems to come.
Right, it's a moving target. And I think one of the challenges is that we might like on the one hand, I want to say dream big. But what I mean by dream big is let it be big enough and compelling enough that it feels like, ooh, I do really want that. But not so big that almost most of ourselves know, okay, that's unattainable, right? It's got to do with now we know ourselves. And a dream could be, I would love a week to just read a novel and eat a chocky with a beautiful view. That's an okay dream. And for some of us, it's, wow, wouldn't that be lovely? So like a dream can be just something that feels compelling, that feels delicious, that's something that we really want. And it will differ from this person to that person. Reading a novel on a sunny afternoon with a beautiful view is absolutely my dream. I have a friend who recently went to Italy and saw Michelangelo's David in real life. And that just brings tears to my eyes. It was a coveted, wonderful thing that she wanted to make happen, and she did. Each person's dream will be personal to ourselves, but if we forget to even have it as a dream, to say, oh yeah, this is something I would really like, then the odds of making it happen are zero.
Absolutely. I guess I want to back up for a second. When I'm starting to think about that, I have so many dreams at that level of dream. I mean, I've got bigger dreams too, but at that level of dream of seeing David, I saw it, it was fantastic. Those sorts of things, or absolutely a week with a novel. For me, it would be at the beach. I could see working towards making those happen. Although I have so many now, all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, how do I prioritize my dreams?
And there's value in that, to say, which is the most close to my heart, which matters the most, which would I be the most regretful if I didn't give it a go. And so to have all the dreams and then go, this one keeps calling my name for whatever reason. Yeah. So I think having too many dreams is not a problem, but not having any really is sad.
Yes. And sometimes, whether it's just natural life changes as we age, things happen, or if it is a diagnosis of an autoimmune condition. I know when I got the diagnosis, at that moment in time, I knew it was life changing. I did not have the scope of what that meant. I'm back now, obviously, in that thriver position where the dreams seem more of a possibility than right after the original diagnosis. And a lot of medical professionals wagging their finger and giving you statistics and realizing that you didn't have to be a statistic. So how do we get back to that? What are some of the first stages if we've lost the knack of dreaming?
Yes, even to dare, because when a person is in pain, to dare dream of being pain-free takes courage, because we're afraid we might set ourselves up for disappointment. And so in a way, if I don't dream, I can't be disappointed. If I don't want something or long for something that I don't have, then I won't be disappointed when I don't get it. And there's some protectiveness in that is understandable. But it also means if we don't dare say, what I would really love to have happen is X, then so what happens when we do dare is that we begin to turn our attention towards the thing that we want. And in some way, we can't dream it unless we can imagine that it's possible. And so those two things happen together. We imagine, first we might think, well, that's impossible, but wait a minute, could it? Could I have 2 days in a row pain-free? Is that possible? Has anyone else had that experience? So is it possible? Is it possible for someone? Then we might even get, perhaps it's possible for me. I'm going to dream or hold that dream. That's something that I would like. So we're turning our attention to what we want, even just by having a dream, which is part of manifesting, right? Because if we're in the state of being ever so aware, of course, we can't not be aware of a painful symptom or a challenging situation. It's in our face. Mm-hmm. So to be able to say, okay, I see this. And even with this, what would I like to have happen? So then we're holding two ideas. at the very least. So being in that place of what can I choose? Given that I know this, I'm being realistic. It's right in front of me, but what would I choose? And even just in the act of saying, I would choose such, that for some, our wildest dream might be somebody else's every Tuesday, if they're lucky, right? But we want to be able to say, oh, this is something that I would want. And then often what goes well with that kind of practice of creating what we want more of is to be really grateful for whatever little sign of it we already have. Right? So
that's a
maybe
good
my
point.
dream is peace. I'm like, in how many ways do I already have what I'm longing for?
I love that. I wanted to circle back. I reminded me of a friend that recently underwent a new type of treatment for their pain. And they were a little apprehensive. I don't know what it sounds good. I may or may not work for me. They weren't totally pessimistic, but they were, okay, I'm willing to give it a go. It was about a week after the procedure I saw them and said, so how you doing? How's it going? And their response was amazing to me. They go, I don't know. I was like, what don't you know? I don't feel anything, and I'm not sure if that's good or not. It
Oh,
was funny, they hadn't been in that place of being pain-free for so many decades, is my guess, that they didn't quite know what to do,
you recognize it.
recognizing that they were pain-free, if that makes any sense. They felt a
Oh,
little
yes.
discombobulated, which I found was fascinating. This was
Wow.
something that they'd wanted a long time, to be pain-free, and it was awesome that the procedure worked. It was fantastic for them. And yet I thought it was an interesting response that after a week they had sat with their recovery and then all of a sudden they noticed they were pain-free.
Wow.
They weren't quite sure if they were pain-free. They didn't have a label for
It
what
is this.
currently the sensation was. It was fascinating as we talked about it a little bit. Are you feeling relaxed? Yeah, I guess.
What's,
Oh, yeah,
what
I
are
guess
what's
so.
the symptoms of being pain-free? Because we're so familiar with the other ones.
Right. She was having a really
Oh,
interesting time sorting out what it was like, to get that goal. It was,
wow.
to her, it was a bit of an impossible thing. She was taking a leap of faith that this new procedure might work. And it was fascinating to me. It's that during our chat, she was able to sort it out, go, oh my gosh, this is what pain-free feels like. But she hadn't been pain-free for so long, she forgot what pain-free
Felt like. It reminds me like when they knock down a building in a street. The building has been there for 100 years. You see it every time you go down that street. Then when they take it away, we're like, what used to be there? I can't remember what was there. And in a way, that's a good thing about pain.
Mhm.
As long as I love that you helped to say, so are you relaxed? Are you at ease? Is there anything getting your attention? Can you breathe easily? Here's how it could be when you are without pain. Yeah. Your attention is focused in a different way.
Which was fascinating, that not that she had lost the ability, because in our conversation it came, but immediately began to unfold what that was, what this new sensation was. In her mind it was lack of sensation, but it was just something she hadn't experienced in so long
Wow.
that she didn't quite have the words for it. It was fascinating.
And I wonder too if there's a fear of, almost a fear of having what you've always wanted, because then what does that mean? You've become so adept at dealing with all the other stuff that if your fairy godmother came and said, here you go, you're pain-free, you'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's a significant change. What does that really mean? Wow.
Absolutely. I see. Which brings up another friend in my mind, has chronic back pain. In a way, we chuckle together because it's been pointed out to her. I didn't point it out to her first. But whenever it comes to heavy duty house cleaning,
Ah,
all of a sudden the back acts up that day that she's,
thank you, back.
yeah, thank you, back. I don't have to do the, I don't know, the vacuuming or something.
Right. Oh, how funny.
But I think
And
just being aware of those kinds of
Yes.
coping mechanisms or avoidance mechanisms versus structural issues, types of things, is really important to know. I'm not judging good or bad. I'm just saying it's important in your own mind to sort. Is this a structural, physical
Be
issue? Or
curious.
is it there is something else, a mental, emotional, spiritual issue about it? Maybe it's both.
Absolutely. We're such marvelously multi-layered beings. I think too, because belief is tied in with something that we dare dream, some part of us must believe it's possible, even if we're not entirely convinced it's possible yet for ourselves. But if we don't dream it, it's almost like we're signing up for it. That's impossible, right? That's just never going to happen. But if we can say, boy, if it were possible, I would love this for myself, this experience or this outcome or objective, to be a little more dreamer can be really helpful. And often what can happen is we realize we have more of what we long for than we thought we did. Because now we're paying attention to it. So say, for example, comfort. If we're looking for pain and symptoms to get on the scale of 1 to 10, we're going to have information about our pain because that's what we're looking for. But if we're measuring, how comfortable am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Oh, actually, not bad, around about here. Oh, how much, like you asked your friend, are you relaxed? Oh, come to think of it, yes. So the more we can gather the data about what it is we do want, the more we can recognize that we're getting it, if we are, or at least are facing the direction in which we can get more of that thing. In other words, if we're looking in the pain pit, we're not going to find comfort because that's not where our attention is focused. So dreaming has a lot to do with what do I dare hope for? And then also, where am I willing to put in some action? How might I join in and roll up my sleeves and participate? Which is not the same as I have to make that dream come true entirely. It's up to me. Because in true dreaming, we're also relying quite a bit on divine grace, on serendipity and synchronicity, on the kindness of others. A dream often it takes a village. And so a goal might be more like, if it's to be, it's up to me. But a dream often is multi-layered.
Well, I want to circle back about the scale of 1 to 10 that you mentioned. I think how many times someone goes to the doctor and they say, what's your pain level? And to me, that's such an arbitrary thing. If you've had a kidney stone or given birth, your pain level is completely different than somebody who has not had a hangnail. So,
Right?
it's
Very subjective.
very subjective. But I was thinking, what would happen if your medical professionals asked you, how comfortable are you today?
Yes.
Instead of how much in pain are you today?
Yes,
I think what a completely different
absolutely.
reframe that it might even put me at ease while I'm sitting there on the table or whatever
Yeah.
it is to.
Oh, more comfortable, more at ease. Oh, yeah. Come to think of it, breathing easily. Thank you. We look for what we want more of, and that can be helpful in itself.
If somebody asks me how comfortable you are today, immediately brings my focus into scanning my body. I'm like, oh, probably more comfortable. But
Yes.
then if someone said, how much pain are you in today? And I have to give it a number.
Oh, and then you'll find pain that you may not have been aware of until they asked.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, that all of a sudden I'm arbitrarily upping my pain.
Yes, in order to make it perceptible. Yeah, we're so marvelous. I just see so many wonderful people who are great at supporting others, who are relied upon in their career or their family. And I see people being, you can count on me. And then I think they are maybe helping other people get their dreams come true, but have they forgotten to dream for some reason? And so just thinking, turn your attention to what you want more of, and then start gathering the data of how it's already showing up. Some years ago, this is a silly example, I haven't thought it through, but some years ago, we were doing a workshop at George Fox University here in Portland. And it was on vision boarding, funnily enough, which is similar to this. It's like having a visual representation of what it is you're going for. And my friend Janet was cutting out pictures. She was looking for partnership, and she was cutting out pictures of nice looking men and sticking it there. And suddenly the door opened and a man walked in, and he was like, oh, sorry, wrong room. And out he went. And of course, we just loved it. We're like, wow, way to manifest. Thinking of a nice man and one appears. So we were joking about that. But it does seem to happen that when we adjust ourselves to say, is what I'm longing for, is it here? We start to see things we might not have seen if we were still focused on what we want less of or what we wish would quit. Our attention is literally in a different direction. It's really fun.
And I want to say totally in your own control. A couple of people came to mind was when you mentioned about the man walking into the room kind of thing. A couple of people come to mind when I think that they would love that their partner change in some way, shape, or fashion. It's I'll be okay when X happens. Well,
Only he or she, yeah.
that's totally out of your control. No.
Right. Yeah, that is a wish. I think that a wish is different from a dream or a goal. A wish is, oh, I just wish this would happen, as opposed to, I'm wanting to manifest this, and these are the steps that I can take in that direction and engage all the powers of the universe to assist me. But yeah, having someone else be different is a fool's errand.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the first steps to get your dream? Maybe you have this, maybe it's still a little fuzzy, like
Right.
love to visit Europe or something like that, but a little fuzzy. How do we begin to get clarity around it?
I love that you've used the word clarity. That's exactly the word I would use, is like clarify your vision. And in a way, it's in that dreamer space to go, when I heard you say what I would love to go to Europe, or I would love. So it's lovely to associate it with a feeling, because then you're connected to it in some way. But to clarify would be to really use your imagination and do a dress rehearsal. And for me, one of my dreams is to go to Italy. It's a long-held dream, and I'm really dreaming it. And so it would be like, imagine you land at the airport and the place that you go to and the smells. And for me, it's a lot about the food. But your imagination is a wonderful link, because I forget who said, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. So dreaming and in that imaginal realm brings something to life that our practical, purely logical self says, I'm not in Italy. I notice I'm in my office in Hillsborough, right? But I can transport myself to what, as far as I know, and I can start watching beautiful movies, and just watched a lovely movie with it all set in Italy. So to use your imagination to act as if you already have your dream, so that you can try it on, you can feel what it feels like. And what often happens with that kind of clarity is we get a little bit excited. So now it's not just a dream that's like in your fantasy mind. It's like your body's, oh, yeah, I'd like that. Oh, where's the gelato? Let's go to Italy. Clarifying it so that you can almost embody it. We could use all of our senses. Can I see it? Can I hear it? Can I feel it? Can I taste it? Can I smell it? It's like, now this dream is becoming 3D. I've often used this also with clients when they're dreaming something that we want to check, is this a smart dream? That we can use that same imagination that someone like, oh boy, here's a thing about this particular course of action that wouldn't be so cool. What about X, Y, or Z? So imagining clarifies it. It also then helps us go, oh, okay, I'm going to make the dream a little bit smaller or tidier, or change something about it so that when I imagine it, it feels more suitable for myself. So clarifying using imagination.
I think that's important, even when we're getting, after the diagnosis, clarifying on what being healthy is to you. I've had numerous medical professionals say, that's not going to work, or
right,
real, Sharon, the stats are. And I'm like, there's got to be, to make them stats, there's got to be that other part that excelled. Otherwise, it would be 100% failure rate. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm thinking about that as well, is to in your heart, it's not listen to the other people about what is and isn't possible. It may be for them, or it may be for stats or whatever. But I've had multiple people come on the show as thrivers who were given just awful diagnoses, multiple sclerosis. This is the kind you're going to end up in a wheelchair. And through their own dreaming and imagination and perseverance,
Yes.
they were able to change that course and not be one of those stats. And I'm holding my hand up now because 2014 was my diagnosis.
Right.
I've been in remission for a number of years, even though my stats were, if I had believed the stats, 7-8 years ago, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Yes, if they say don't jump off that 5,000-foot cliff, that's different. Okay, guys.
Then, yeah,
You know?
there's the statistics and there's the information that is a fact in some way, but it doesn't factor in who are you, what do you long to have happen. Like you use the word thriver. I love that because that's an identity statement. That's I am a thriver. And a person can be a thriver even who is dealing with a symptom. It doesn't affect who you are. And so I think recognizing that, like, when a well-meaning, very highly educated medical professional gives us data, that we shouldn't jump to, oh, that means in every corner of my life. Okay, thank you for that data. And who am I again? What do I love? What is my life about? What really matters? And so giving it that perspective. We need realism, but we also need to fill out that we are more than those statistics.
Absolutely. And being able to filter the realism, because I remember when I was told, I went in for my yearly visit. This was a few years ago. I went in for my yearly visit and I was feeling great. I was off some medications I'd wanted to wean myself off of. Things were going really good, great trajectory. And well-meaning person, I am not saying that this is just the way, I guess, they learn to do it. Well, now you're not healed, you're in remission. And I was like, okay. Cancel clear. And my own brain just went cancel clear.
Yes.
It was like, I said to her, I don't really care what term you give it. Healing was never the goal. The feeling better and getting a new life in a way that I want to be in life and living life to the fullest was the goal.
Yes.
If healing was a byproduct of that, and you don't like that word and you call it remission as a byproduct of that,
Call it what you like, lady. My experience.
It's up to you. I'm not going to change how you're putting in your notes what's happening, because I think it was really important to reframe that. The minute I heard that, I didn't want my subconscious, unconscious, whatever it is, to go, oh, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's, oh, there for a moment I thought I had what I wanted, but this expert has told me otherwise. Nope. Yeah.
Exactly.
So good that you also have such a distinction because of the work that you do. You understand when there's a belief flying around and not letting it land on you if it doesn't belong to you.
Absolutely. And being very clear on that it didn't belong to me, and not in a mean way. I did point out, I don't care what you call it. I said it with a smile, so it wasn't like snarky or mean.
Sure.
But making it very clear that was her word, not my word.
So
or warning, shall I say. But this idea, I just, there again, wishing that medicine could learn some communication skills that would enhance healing, enhance clarity, enhance thriving, instead of keeping us in a state of perpetual fear.
And yeah, I remember being told in my 20s and early 30s that I could not and would not conceive.
Wow.
And that was hard to bear. And luckily I got to do some work with beliefs and changes and things going. I'd really like to change that. That was a dream, to become a mom. And my child is 24 now.
Bravo.
Yeah. And there was another language piece, because by then I was an older mom, and then they called us geriatric pregnancy. It's like those two words just don't really go together, but okay. Luckily, I was so delighted to have got the opportunity to have a pregnancy. I had to put up with the geriatric word, but I'm not sure it's helpful.
Especially because my terminology of geriatric is 70s or something, and you definitely were not there.
Not going to be pregnant. Yeah, geriatric pregnancy. But I think too that if only a medical person could just say, it appears that you may not conceive. It's possible. Just leave a little doubt in there in a good way so that the person can fill in the blank with their own hopefulness, if possible. But if it comes across like an absolute with no wiggle room, then we don't think to challenge it, unfortunately.
Especially if it comes from someone we hold in a space of authority.
They've got a uniform with a white jacket. They've had much more education, certainly, than I have. Yeah, and we tend to go, oh, I guess they must know.
So I don't know if unravel's the right statement for you, but I like it. I think you're really good at taking these little threads that people throw out and helping us put them into something really lovely. I can remember numerous times that you and I have chatted privately and had wonderful times about what I'll say. I think it's really fascinating in having a coach or a dear friend, something like that is able to, I don't want to say challenge, but guide you as you're trying to make a little clarity around your dream. And sometimes just having a person ask the right question or two,
Absolutely.
all of a sudden the light bulb goes off in your head and it becomes very clear. What are some things you found, if you're that person, what are some things that you might, a question or two you might ask to help somebody gain clarity?
First, I hear in the language, I hear people say, and I'm sure I also say limiting things about myself. I hope there's someone to catch it for me as well. But I hear someone say something like, if I was younger, or I can't afford it. And those may be factual. The fact is we're a certain age, or the fact is there's a budget. But it's almost like when we look at those things, we forget that there's still a version of what we want that is absolutely still possible when we dream it. So I love to help people just listen to yourself. Did you word that to yourself like a person who's going after what you want, or like a person who's sitting down on the bench going, I'm not even going to go after it for X arbitrary reason? So listen to how you talk to yourself. You can also use affirmations. That there's so many beautiful books on affirmations, or just like phrases that you know are already positive. Even if a part of you is, I'm not entirely sure that's all the way true yet, but I'm going to grow into my affirmation. I am worthy. I am worthy, or I'm becoming more and more worthy. Or, I love my life is a wonderful statement to make. Just ordinary everything. Just go, I love my life. Because we tend to then attract more of the thing we're focused on. So the more excuses we find to say, I love my life, the more we notice even more things like that. I love my life is a great affirmation.
Absolutely. And I want to say that be sure and not give up the first few times, because every time I've chosen a new affirmation, there is some little thing going, yeah, for the first few times until it becomes real. It's a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of convincing going on in there as I'm stating it, but I keep repeating it, put it on Post-it notes, like on the bathroom mirror or on my steering wheel in my vehicle or something, just to remind me to say it often, to the point where it becomes, there's no more little bit of you going, really?
Exactly. And sometimes to even modify the affirmation so that it's your skeptic doesn't go to town with it. Even just something like I love my life is fairly hard to argue with, especially when you have evidence of I love my life. And sometimes a qualifier like I am becoming healthier and healthier is something less arguable than I am 100%. A skeptical or wise part of us that might say, yeah, that's not quite true. And we don't want to be just like spouting things that don't feel true in every way. I'm becoming healthier and healthier every way and every day. And noticing that we're taking the actions to do that. Even I wouldn't be able to say that while I'm enjoying a big old plate of salt and vinegar chips on the couch. As long as I was doing some actually doing some actions that were in alignment with what I'm affirming.
I've noticed that the more I say it, the more I do it. And as you said, maybe tweak it here and there to make it sit a little bit better. But I've had people say, oh, I tried affirmations. I did it for 2 days and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It
Because
takes a
the
little
fact is, you are actually affirming all day long, unconsciously. And so to get to choose what you want to affirm, you get more choice around it when you're consciously affirming. Because otherwise, we're accidentally affirming what we don't want over and over again in just accidentally languaging things a certain way, or going, I knew it. I always knew that, insert belief here. And so affirming it's like a bit like the word abracadabra. I'm making true with my words. Abracadabra. What do I want to have be true? Yeah.
I've always loved the word abracadabra. I've also loved the word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I don't.
Well said.
Don't ask me to spell it. But I've always loved those words. It's fantastic. We've been chatting a little bit. I'm going to put a larger frame around this. I think what we've been chatting about is limiting beliefs. Obviously, when a limiting belief falls out of my mouth, I want to be quick enough to go, oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yes. And it can be hard to detect a belief because we think they're true. So often a statement that begins with I love or I would love helps us to inch towards possibility, even if it still feels a bit of a dream. I would love X. I would love. Because we can even talk about, I would love to fly to the moon. We pretty much know that's unlikely. And yet we're saying, if it were possible, I would love. So I would love helps us look at possibility, which is really what we're wanting to play with in the realm of dreaming big. What's possible? Not what can I absolutely confirm that I can make happen, but what would I love if it could be?
Mhm.
And we begin to inch into that direction. But you also want to be wary when you have a dream and it's like a tender little green little shoot that just grew, is not exposing that little seedling to people who would tromp on it.
Oh, yes. Ouch.
Yeah. If a dream is too tender and it's not ready for prime time, you might hold it close to your heart and then join with people who are also working on or manifesting or putting energy towards making their dreams come true. Then you can be in a squad of dreamers, of people who respect that tenderness of the process. You just don't want anyone who either just doesn't understand or for whatever reasons of their own are afraid that they might lose you when you attain your dream, and so they want to keep you at the bottom of the bucket with them.
It's interesting you say that because I have seen other people's family members when they've shared a dream with me, and then the other people, family members, so who do you think you are, or some version of that, or nobody in our family's ever done that. Why would you be?
Right.
You know, like sometimes it sounds these beliefs from other people sound like we're having to make a choice. Either I go for my dream or I lose family or I lose my community, whatever that is. I find that so difficult for people to be able to say, I'm going to go search for a new community that supports my
Right.
dreams instead of one that wants to keep me over here where things aren't happening for me the way I want them to unfold.
I think there's a saying, again, I forget who said it. When you have something from your heart that you want to make happen, tell a wise person.
Mm.
If you tell anyone at all, tell a wise person so that you can have people around you who are also having to be courageous, because making dreams come true is not for sissies. And somebody who would pull you down or poo your dream has another agenda, and they might not even know they're doing it, but it's a terrible outcome to be surrounded by people who can't support our dreams.
Let's talk a little bit more about courage. First off, I love the word courage.
Yes.
And for me, it's all about being able to, two parts of courage for me are being able to go after what you want, regardless of maybe some of the costs. But the other part is being aware of the costs. There's a difference between courage and foolhardiness in my mind.
Yes, I agree. I think courage, I love the word also because it means heart. the French word for heart. And it takes courage to take steps in any direction towards something that really has purpose and meaning for us. Because the risk of not getting it then means that we will feel worse off than we did before. In other words, if we do nothing, want nothing, we can't be disappointed, but we're also not going to go anywhere, right? It's like using a GPS to say, I'm not going anywhere. Then you don't need a GPS. But when you have courage, it takes courage to say, there is something for which I'm longing. And even to just notice and admit that to ourselves, to say, I would love to have this situation be different in this way. I would love a partner. I would love to travel. I would love this, whatever the dream is. As soon as we've announced it to ourselves at some level, and the good way is that things line up so that we can begin to manifest that. But now we've gone and set it out there. And so it does take courage. Like what I see when I love to listen to the soul, that's what I think intuition is what's the soul's agenda here is different from our own human self. Most anything that the soul inspires us to do will require courage. In other words, there just isn't a path of meaning and purpose that's just, it's paved, it's lit, there's a Starbucks on every corner, easy peasy pudding and pie. Probably not, because when it is in alignment with our soul, we will come into not necessarily conflict, but we will come to places in the journey where it'll be, this person won't go with me if I go this way. What will I do about that?
Mm-hmm.
Or this is not met with approval from this department. They all think this is a silly idea. So the courage to say, this matters to me, even if the certain squad is not on board with that, or even that they would ridicule me for going for my dream. As soon as we step onto the path of something that is meaningful and purposeful and matters, every other little thing is going to come up and we get the opportunity to navigate it. Or we can just sit comfortably on the couch and eat salt and vinegar chips and face no risk.
Oh my gosh. So many things came up for me then. I was thinking about the idea of boundaries when you were talking about that. And maybe your boundaries have been a little loose and you've allowed these naysayers or whatever we want to say to happen. And sometimes laugh at people about the expecting it may happen. Lightning can strike. But I hear people say about success or whatever, and they're an overnight success. And then in hindsight, when I think about it, I was like, yeah, it took them 10 years to become an overnight success.
Right. Exactly.
Kind of understanding the process here, that it may happen that your dream manifests in the morning you wake up and wow, there it is.
Great. Awesome.
Oftentimes people will go like that person walking in the door, the idea of someone jumping up and saying, but wait, you're the man from heaven.
Right.
That's really weird. But this idea of recognizing it when it begins to unfold too. How do we, I've got so many questions here about dreams and limited time, but how do we recognize it when it begins to unfold?
I love how you pointed out how that person was experiencing like ease or being pain-free and didn't know what are the signs. Right. And so that's one of the ways is like when we look for a dream, we go, what will this do for me? Because sometimes what we think is the dream is actually not even the real dream. For example, I'm going to get my degree. What's important about that? My father will be proud of me. Oh, so maybe that's the real heart of the matter here. We let the dream take us in a direction. I think of it a little bit like North Star, that we are guided in a certain direction. We see things along the way, and we actually become clearer on who we are in the pursuit of the dream. So sometimes getting the dream is only just a nice, happy side effect, because what we gained from pursuing it is so much more important. But if there are people who would put us down, we want to be really careful where we get feedback from. I'm not a writer and I'm trying to write. I really do need feedback from people who know about this. And I'm not going to let just any old person say, well, that's a rubbish paragraph you wrote there, Bev. But I will ask a person who I know has written her own books, who is an editor, and who cares for me. Because I know that she cares for me enough that she will tell me what I need to know, even if I don't like to hear it. And I will value her feedback. But if there's somebody like an internet troll who just says, you're ugly and your mother dresses you funny, I'm not going to take that into account as much. So this is part of creating our squad of dream nurturers and dream supporters. And I would say step one is that they love us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We're just about out of time. I'm going to leave it right there because that's just awesome. And I love you, my dear friend. Let's tell everyone, I know you have a wonderful little booklet that you have on clarity that I think people will enjoy.
Sure.
And other ways that people can get a hold of you.
That's downloadable. It's called 15 Minutes to Clarity, and it's got some of these steps. If you're wrestling with your intuition and you're second guessing something that you're dreaming about, it's got just a few tips to help. Is it clear? Am I thinking of the problem instead of what I want? So some of the things we've talked about today will be in there in just a handy little guide on bevmartin.com.
Fantastic. bevmartin.com, everyone. It's pretty simple to remember. And we'll have it up over at understandingautoimmune.com as well. And be sure and check us out on Facebook. It's at Understanding Autoimmune on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check us out there. And if community, lovely community, if you're not watching this now on YouTube, or even if you are and you haven't yet subscribed, please do. We're trying to get our video part of our message out as big as we've gotten our audio part of the message out. So please help us in sharing the message that you too can be a thriver and join our community of nurturers and dreamers. I'm going to take those words from Bev because I love those words. Join our little community here of nurturers and dreamers. Everyone have a great week. Whatever your adventures, join me next week for another brand new episode. Yes. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.